Looking for something new in dark fantasy, humor, space exploration, time travel, alternative history? They're in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future anthology. Get the 10-volume box set with 159 stories and full color illustrations plus 34 articles with writings and art tips. Get the UPRN discount, $125 for the entire box set. That's a $60 savings for that beautiful box set. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Go to uprntalkradio.com, click on the link, and play.
Looking for stories that are fresh and new? Dark fantasy, humor, space exploration, time travel, cyberpunk, alternate history, and more. They're in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future anthology from 24 award-winning authors and illustrators, plus art and writing tips and bonus stories. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Buy your copy at Galaxy Press.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Into the Night with Sean Kelly. How is everybody doing? We are on UPRN Talk Radio, 107.7 New Orleans, 105.5 Mississippi. I have to get that straight. We're in for a good show tonight. So I want to thank Carnation for sponsoring the show tonight. I truly appreciate it. And I just thought I'd get that out of the way because the show we have coming up tonight, I'm telling you, it's going to be a great, great show. I got my friend Michael Anthony, who has taught me so much. You know, he's taught me how to research. He taught me everything, and I'm still learning. Hey, Cindy, good to see you. Sebastian, good to see you. Robert Carpenter, my famous PPFs member, Happy New Year. Hope it's a happy and healthy. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. But I just can't tell you how much I'm going to enjoy tonight. This is the first show of the brand new year of 2024, and I am honored to have my friend Michael Anthony on as my guest. So without further ado, Mr. Michael Anthony. There he is.
Hey, America and everywhere else and beyond. Welcome into the unknown where strangeness is everywhere. You are on 105.3 with my best friend, Sean Kelly, head of the Pittsburgh Paranormal. I just love you, man.
I do too.
You know, I miss you. I really do. And thank you for having me on. It's kind of like a reboot of my life. I miss some of the things I've done and do. And I owe so many thanks to so many people. You know, I've had so many shows with good people, and I should have put a post up, you know, just to thank everybody for saying you made my 2023. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll just be, what is that called when you're a little bit late, belated?
Yeah, belated's the word, brother.
I will be the belated Santa Claus. Hey, listen, speaking of Santa Claus, I got jammed into a couple corners with people's thoughts, but when you look at a jolly fat man surrounded by children,
yeah,
and a bunch of mystery elves, I mean, what, you know, there's a little bit of strangeness maybe there too, because it's all corporate. But I had a great Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody out there too. Sean, as you said, this is your first show into the year. Mm-hmm. I know we want to talk about a lot of things, Bigfoot, whatnot, but I want to pick your brain too. Okay. And this isn't like an interview, but I just want to ask you to weigh in on a couple of things that I've been giving thought to, that have come up through other people sometimes and sometimes within my own mind. So, you know, we know that there are people on both sides who control things, but they can't control what we see or experience, at least maybe not yet. Maybe they're getting close to it with this mystical AI technology and what it's capable of. But we see things, we see paranormal. And I was thinking, because it was brought up, and I thought it was a really good source of topic that maybe not enough in the paranormal field of ghostly phenomena and so forth talk about this. And that would be when we catch things like you did have that crazy phenomena of the picture that you got.
Right.
And some of the things that I've taken in the past, as well as having orbs land in my hand and things like that. And it makes me wonder how the past, present, and future might be working with that. Like, are we seeing something that's just that recording, like a doppelganger effect to something? In some cases, it seems like maybe they do look at us and then keep going and disappear through a wall or a doorway that maybe at once upon a time was there. And then you have mediums that say they can open and close the portals and doors for spirits. Well, if they can open and close portals for spirits, and I would think they could place us into dimensions too. And how some of that grab you when you hear about that? And, you know, like for me, I think we're observing them, but I cannot conclusively say I understand it to be something of the past versus something of current. What do you think?
Oh, wow. That, my friend, again, thank you for being on, brother. But, you know, I really have not put no thought into it.
It's hard, isn't it? It's kind of like a mind bender.
I see, to me, when I walk into a room, when I'm investigating, and nobody else is around, maybe a couple people like we did down at that one place. And all of a sudden, I just get these feelings. Hey, Tony, good to see you. I just get these feelings that there are eyes looking at me. Do you know what I mean? It's just like piercing eyes. And I just get the feeling that I'm being watched. And so I really don't make the difference. But with me being retired a little bit, maybe I'll start looking into that, Michael. You know, I mean, there's so much I have to look into because I basically went into places and I set up the cameras and did my paranormal thing, but I never took it to the aspect or even thought about what you have talked. What you just mentioned. How about you? How do you feel? I mean, I know you.
Yeah, put your questions up if you have any. What everybody's thinking. That's what makes it all fun and more creative in the show. But yeah, I thought, you know, like, wow, how are we really looking at it? Are we basing it all factually right? And I don't know if we'll ever know something like that, but then we can go to, I guess, voice phenomena in some ways when you're into paranormal too. There are times that there seems to be intelligences having a pretty substantial conversation, but never the. See, I miss out not being there. I want to knock on the TV or something when I'm looking and say, hey. I ask them, like, what's it like over there? I mean, you know, you're talking about kindred spirits. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention names here, but I think they're great people. I really do. And I think they have a very unique way of how they investigate, you know, information, going and talking to historians in the library and newspapers, getting people's names, and sometimes curing something that might be weighing over a spirit's mind.
Right.
Still. But, you know, when you do this kind of work and you do get some great answers, you never see them take it into a level of understanding the separation of our dimensions, of this beyond and what is beyond. But one time, only one time, I have observed this to happen on a show where a question of comment came back, says, and it said, I miss being alive.
Ooh. Yeah. I can honestly say, yes, sir, that they do some would say that. I remember one time about the EVPs. Tony, jump in here if you want. If you have any things you want to share. But I remember one time, and I'm going to keep this short. Me and my ex-girlfriend, we went to Monroeville and we did a house. And before we actually did the investigation, we do a walkthrough. And so I'm talking to the client, and she comes barreling out of the car. And she loved using the EVPs. Okay.
Yeah.
The digital voice recorder. She was good at it too. And she said, you got to hear this. You got to hear this. Quote unquote. how old are you? And that's her talking. And you can clearly hear the number 93. And the client heard that and he said, that's my father's voice. And that's how old he was when he died.
Yeah.
So, but see, on the other hand of that, I know people that you can like crunch up some papers into a microphone, right? And you put it on the freaking Odyssey, it's a program where it helps a lot of paranormal investigators. And you can actually, mimic that thing in order for that crumply paper to come out and say a sentence or some sort. And I do not like that when people do that. I prefer to have the live, I want to be alive or something like that, or 93. So it's like, I don't know. To this day, to me, it's a phenomenon. How do we know that they're actually talking? Is it from another dimension? It's just all mind-boggling and craziness. And I think I need to do some more research into thinking how it's all about, because you're going to talk to people who are going to say, hey, Michael, what you heard was a parapsychologist. And what they do is that whenever you see something, whenever you hear something, it's all made up in your brain. So who knows? I don't know.
Now you sound like the government. And I'm glad you brought that up. In a way, I really am. And hello to all your friends out there. And as you said, just keep welcoming them in. Cut me, doesn't matter. So we were talking about Pennsylvania. One of the biggest phenomena that really goes with a big question mark now. And I am not trying to say anything negative to some of our friends from Hangar One or guys I've done shows with, is Kecksburg. But again, I know that some people have come to conclusions and saying satellite. I seen the big radar go off, and I understand that people did work and what on it. But there is a particular video clip that exists with Clifford Stone, military observer, someone who was able to actually sit with the others, the visitors, and telepathically be able to communicate with them. And his analogy of something that came that night from Kecksburg to Wright Pat was not of a satellite. So I'm still up in arms because, I can't call this man. He's now deceased. We lost him a couple of years ago. And he's given us a lot of information, which is, let's just jump into some dogma here. When we go into whether it's Bigfoot or ufology, it doesn't matter. But I will say this, everybody says, go to the woods if you want to experience Bigfoot. Well, a lot of people that I knew that would talk to me on occasion, Bigfoot Group Canada, who would keep in touch with me, said, with every wildfire, nearing 275 of them, 275 wildfires in Canada this past summer.
Wow.
No observations of anything coming out beside bear, deer, squirrels, raccoons, going to other areas of population. No credible information, nothing. But what we do get most of when we talk about things, and I guess it doesn't matter where in the country you are, and you're talking about Bigfoot or Dogman, it seems like one of the highest reported scenarios is seen running across the road. Mm-hmm. That's like the most common. Also, in some cases, standing on tree lines and shadowing in and out, just as my body's moving, like observing but swaying, that type of movement, sometimes to be described as a big, dark, furry-looking shadow creature. Sometimes where in the woods and forest also, the red eyes appear. So these are like some of the top things. On a very rare occasion, there's a few stories that describe the Dogman being by trash. I've heard that through talking with people, having done shows where Bigfoot is guilty of that same criminal offense, digging in the trash. If the thing needs to eat, and he is of flesh and blood like we are, I don't know. I would assume that he needs to do that. And if he can't, for some reason, forage off what is being provided for them in the woods, maybe they are coming closer, because we do get knocks on houses. We have some of these other strangenesses where people get mysterious giant objects looking through a window on occasion.
Yeah.
And there's many stories out there where people have come home and find one in their house. And it's not all the time. There are some things out there. The same with ufology. And some of the best people, and I'm going to name them: Bob Lazar, James Forrestal, Bob O'Dean, Lieutenant Corso, Clifford Stone, Jacques Vallée, Phil Schneider, William Tompkins, just to mention a few of our historians of this topic and subject matter. Where are they all from? Military.
Yes.
Military. Whistleblowers. And some call that treason.
Why would they call that? Why would they call that treason?
Because you're utilizing things that are suppressed, that are under classified orders, and what do they call EDRs? You got to sign the paper and all that stuff like that. But Bob O'Dean was at the top of the chain on classified Project Shock. James Forrestal mysteriously jumps from a window. You have that. Lieutenant Corso. I think this is one of the most fascinating people that no one talks about. His background in the military, who he was, how he came up in ranks, what he controlled. And it seems like he controlled a lot of the technology that went to Westinghouse and some of these bigger branches of outside corporate research. And when that stuff is handed to them to reverse engineer, so's a pocket full of money.
Right.
So they want to give everything to the best. And this guy did it. Paula, who was a secretary to him, if anybody can look into Lieutenant Corso, if you don't know who I'm talking about, and I would think a lot of people out there that follow the phenomena in paranormal and ufology, etc., Bigfoot. I mean, come on, we're all trapped into this thing. There's so much. This guy, basically, he wrote books. He has books out there. And I would suggest, and one's in Italian. So if you read Italian, just be prepared that you don't get the copy that's in Italian. Otherwise, you'll be calling somebody or sitting on your phone translating the whole damn book. And you don't want to do that. But this guy was phenomenal. And, we're talking about Roswell. We're talking about the most important subject matter that is proof, unequivocal proof. And this is coming through military. And Bob O'Dean, where he says, basically his heart sunk when he read some of the subject matter that was in this manual book when he got to where he was going to relate to these types of things. So again, another rock star that we lost. I mean, these are all people that we have lost. Forrestal, I think, just wanted to tell America the truth. And in ways, I think when we look back to the Antarctic and Admiral Berg, same scenario. They were attacked by alien crafts coming from all directions, and it ripped the destroyer in half. But they don't talk about everything of that. They don't. And then his son, who had information, and sadly enough to say, he's no longer with us. He never got to his destination where he was supposed to meet with somebody to share his father's most thoughts on scenarios. We'll just say it like that with respect. You got William Tompkins that says we're dealing with outer planetary people. You have Phil Schneider, who was drilling to go down, building these deep state underground nuclear board and tunnels and structures of deep state military hideaways and things of that nature, where, he was shot apart by what he described as laser type Star Trek weaponry, where many of our people, our military, passed away and died in this fight that had occurred underground.
Well, here in Pennsylvania, Michael, do we have a lot of underground bases?
We do. But to what degree? I don't have every bit of information on that. I truly don't. But yes, we do have some of them. And I think you and I in the past probably have talked about it, or I brought it back up. But they exist. To what degree, I can't really make comment on that. I have information that would actually enlighten everybody, but it's not right in front of me. It's in that stack behind me. It's a stack. I'm not kidding you, man. It's big. It's thick. And I could find that out. And I think this would actually, what we're doing and what we're talking about in the scenario of the depth of this night tonight is going to need more like a part 2, a part 3, maybe a part 4. I'm just saying, and I'm not trying to worm my way into a platform to do this, but I enjoy who you are, what we always have talked about in the past. And
Right.
I'll leave that choice up to you. But, saying what I need to say comes from how suppression works, how things work, how black ops work, why there's helicopters with no names, how bizarre things occur. And furthermore, you have another man that a lot of people are aware of too. You have John Lear, who came out about 25 years ago. And I think he was on an interview with George Norrie, I believe. And they were talking about, this is very interesting, very, very interesting. It might be talking about Bigfoot subject matter, but it was identified in an Air Force book that they taught from that there was an alien creature that looked to be in fur.
Okay.
So are they telling us that there is a connection between UFOs and Bigfoot, or the scenario of this particular type of life? Now we jump to Washington State. Military maps that describe to the soldiers when they get these maps and they're out there, and I guess they have to spend so much time in these areas. Excuse me, I need a drink.
See, I believe that UFOs and Bigfoot go hand in hand.
Well,
but you come up with that interesting thing to where he saw an alien with.
Where do I have that here? I have it actually right here. I do.
Okay, good.
Chapter 13 in the Air Force book. It's one of their own books. They teach from. And it may contain the smoking gun. Hairy aliens. Rare but exist.
Wow. That boy.
Now, when you go to Washington State, they have it labeled right on their map that they give the military soldiers being in training.
Right.
So
can you imagine if that is true, hairy aliens, how big of a monkey wrench you would throw into the UFO alien investigating?
Yeah. And I think the maps do it too, bro. I think the maps do it too. And when you got to trust maps, especially when you go back and jump time. If you go back to Perry Reese map, I mean, it was all detailed out without any ice.
Mm-hmm.
No ice. How is that possible if this is the ice capital of the world and always has been?
Right.
And then you can look at subject matter that even goes deeper.
Good. No, I had
no, brother. I'm sorry.
I have friends or acquaintances believe that a lot of these cryptids, dogmen, Bigfoot, are man-made. What's your thought on that?
I would agree that we are in classified genetics modifications of humanity, of mixing man and beast together. I believe in biblical content of how that works, and the symbolisms and the representations that you see come through Egypt and the Egyptian temples and so forth like that. Dogmen-like creatures standing there, they all have titles, they all have names. So yeah, I would say very possibly, and that connects to today, what we're seeing in many ways, and gods that were transgender. Mm-hmm. They were in past history. So are they working a narrative somewhere below levels of ground? That's where my below level 7, when I do that commentary every once in a while, because there's not a lot to report on it. Subject matter is probably the worst to come across, but hey, every step forward is a step in the focus of good data if you can share it. Okay. So I talked about that.
Real quick,
sure.
Case, I'm going to put it up. You ever heard of the Montauk Project?
Yeah, I heard of hundreds of projects. Yeah, yeah, I have many. There's Jekyll Island. There's things out there that they've been working on. I mean, come on, look, go to Siberia right now, start Googling, start GPSing it. We've just learned very recently that they took an elephant and they took ancient DNA from the woolly mammoth and they were able to recreate woolly mammoths and they are releasing them in Siberia. 25 years ago, we cloned Lucy the sheep. I mean, no, this is not new. This is
No.
even mentioned in ancient texts that these
Mhm.
things could happen. And the ones writing the text reflecting the power, the people of the power of the names, because it was a political reverb of regurgitation even back then. They made comments that they could stay alive by changing vessels. So removing consciousness to put it in a new grown vessel.
Right.
Transhumanism, I mean, we can go into subject matter like that and assume it, but were they doing that back in ancient times? What's hidden? Maybe we'd have to go to the Vatican vault because a lot of subject matter is brought up that exists there through people that have visited it and where, again, leaks have occurred. We know that the Jesuits, I'm going to go into this. We have a white pope, a black pope, a gray pope. We have families of rich and power that own museums and own the East and other areas. California is actually owned by a family. That's not a joke. It's owned by a family. You don't have to believe me. I don't care, but it's factual when you go into what I go into. The Orsini family is actually the name for Rockefeller and Rothschilds, the Orsini. Okay. When you get into the Jesuits, they are part of a military complex that runs the United States military with them. This is why we probably see the woke occur. And I don't want to get into the political content, but what I want to get into is telling you that the Vatican is most likely the ones that I have been able to conclusively point the finger at so hard, Sean, that these were the project of the Men in Black. Which means their hands have been in everything. So you can go into the Tuscan Empire, you can go into petrograms. And why I say petrograms is because when you look at the Pentagon, it resembles a family symbol crest from Italy, Venezia. It's a family who claim they own the Pentagon.
Huh. Wow.
Maybe that connects actually to the 9/11. And look, I'm not trying to go there on a deep, not tonight, not for that. But what I'm doing is trying to just enlighten a little bit of a focus of what we see, what's going on. And I also want to bring Washington into the factor that there is subject matter of property there also that is owned outside of America. And you all know what that is. I mean, it exists. These things are happening. And they do exist. And then you have the Khazarian Mafia, Phoenician funds. And when you get into all these, you start to understand, in a way, tactically, that for a long time, these people have ran everything and always had the need to know. And we were the last people with the need to know. We run under a constitution. But here's the deal. When you look at things like that, you may have it and it may look useless because they control narrative. Now, how that works in the world, whether we'll talk about Bigfoot, paranormal, whatever, that they utilize words. If you're not a white supremacist, then you're a conspiracy theorist. All I'm compiling here is the fact of terminologies that they use. But when you have people that are regulating their own corporations for what they can and can't do, there's a problem in America.
Yes.
Meaning they own the corporation, but they're also handling the disruption and the corruption so they can do whatever they want. So it follows us through all these narratives. It follows us through history. It follows us by books. You know, if you were to go to a library, and I put a post up the other day, you go to a library and you ask for a book, and if it's over 150 years old, they're going to tell you, oh, that's been put away to be preserved. We don't pull it out no more. No, that is a fact of what they use called suppression. It is a project of suppression against us because the further back you can go and listen to the authors that had none of this of what we have in front of us, were the truth seekers, and had some of the best information because their intel was much greater than what we have now. And right now, what we have, an influx of terrible AI technologies disrupting and corrupting everything we do. So no matter what we do, how we believe in it, there's a structural force fighting against us. So all we can do when we talk about narratives or what had occurred, it all comes back to the same old pow, and it's bad. But we keep try to keep our smoking guns rolling. And I have a lot of smoking guns and people that are within some of those. You got any other questions? Hush my mouth here for you.
Get something to drink there real quick. No, I want to get back. My friend Kaysen, he says, I think it's not confined to the U.S. The deep state owns 99% of all the banks worldwide, as he hears.
I believe that.
Okay. And Cindy Mitch, who's another dear friend of mine, she really is interesting, and so interesting listening to you talk. But I like to get back to where about the hairy aliens. Okay. That when you mentioned that like really opened my eyes. So say like they do have, and they are aliens. Some people think they are, some people think they're not. Now, are they there? Let's just say scenario, they are aliens, Bigfoot, right? Hairy aliens.
Well,
are they here to spy on us, or are they here to just like throw a monkey wrench into everybody else hunting something that they know they're aliens and they know that they will never ever get caught? Dude, when you mentioned that hairy aliens, man, that just like opened up the sky in my brain, dude. It really did. It just really did. But
it did the same for me, bro. It really did, because it's when you come across something being said that's that fascinating, and he's being interviewed by one of the best in the world, and he was, and he has brought good information, and I think it's very trustable. I mean, he's actually helped Bob Lazar come to the surface. He's did a lot for humanity. He's proved pictures of the moon to be corrupt and painted over, and he had the originals and he released them. I mean, this guy was somebody who tried. He also was very well educated, and just about any flying machine that was ever created, he was a test pilot for most of it, and which is, credibility to me. But what was mentioned in there, one other thing was a description of a 3-foot alien type with the big eyes, larger head, only of 3 foot tall. They would dress in a silver skin tight type apparel of some sort, spacesuit. Now, does this help them when they're in flight and they're going 12,000 miles an hour and they come to an instant stop? And, which would base, as everybody knows, us as humans, we can't do that. However, if there's 2 onboard motors doing 2 different things, then the craft has different types of capabilities. And we've theorized around that. I've talked with other people about it for a long time, some with good names high up that know a few things, some not so, but have great theories. And when we think about it, if they were able to disrupt the magnetic field around them, then, they would not feel these pressures on their bodies.
Right.
And the other one's handling the gravity and speed. Because, if you eliminate the outside forces, that craft's capable of doing anything at once.
Right.
Which brings me back to a theory that I have using the magic of the atmosphere. And I really believe that we all have that power. Sean, you and I probably talked about this, but maybe some in the audience, wherever we're reaching to, haven't, but may have experienced this. You're in one place, whether you're walking or driving, just for maybe a split moment, maybe 10 seconds, whatever. I know this happened to me. I was driving through, best way to describe it, I'm driving through Liberty Tunnels, True story. I'm coming back with my tow truck with a car on back, going to Don Allen Chevrolet many years ago as a young kid, and it was like a blackout that never happened. I came out the other side of the tunnels at the red light, and I stopped and don't remember doing any of that coming through. It was like going through the tunnel. I was transfixed on the lights. Something I don't know. I think you've experienced some of these things. You live in Pittsburgh.
Yes, absolutely.
Was I under some sort of hypnotic something? I don't know. But I also had it happen not being in the tunnels. How do we get from point A to point B? Do we go through something that is dimensional that we don't understand, that is like a duplicate of, like a doppelganger effect of some sort? Duality, you might want to say that word. So did you ever experience something like that?
Yes.
What is in that
Yes,
moment? Where did we lose our thought? Did we leave it there?
No, we did some time travel in there, dude. I totally believe that. I'll give you an example. I'm over at the VA hospital in Oakland, okay? And I know where I parked my truck, okay? I know. I was right next to the exit, dude. And I ended up walking 3 floors through the garage trying to find my truck. And here it was right next to the elevator. Yeah. And I'm thinking, but I have heard a lot of people talk about that, and what they think is that they do some time traveling. There's just like that little bit. There is a mountain over, I will find a story for you, but there is a place, David Paulides found it out, that from this point to this point, which is 8 yards, you lose 6 seconds of time.
Yeah. I'm aware of the conversation that Dave, being on many shows across, the globe, had spoken about that observation that they found. And I don't think it's the only one that exists, because there has been some military people who've talked about these places of anomalies like that exist. And portholes, natural energy sources that come from the ground. And I'll give you one exactly that other people may not know about. In Alaska, same sort of scenario is happening. And I don't know what made the military investigate this in the way that they did, but underground, 150 feet, and I don't know how they got into this chamber, but it is a chamber. They found a black pyramid that was 100 feet higher than the Giza pyramid, the great pyramid of Giza, 100 feet taller. Now imagine underground, and the only thing when they say black to me is basalts, something that comes from volcanic rock that may be able to be crafted and laid and structured. And here's the most tangible part of the evidence that comes from this, and this has been talked about. If nobody knows about it, it has been talked about. It self-generates,
right?
And they said there's enough power that comes from this artificial intelligence of sorts that could power up half the United States, or nearly power up the United States if it was sitting here for us to use. But they said Alaska with no problem, and plus. So that's how it was described. So now we're talking about things that have a lot of possibilities. We have meteor effects. Where larger meteors lay, you have stronger electromagnetic fields also. I'll refer everybody to Blyden Frog Ranch that came out a year ago that's now just making news that they, in fact, are dealing exactly with this phenomena. And I think Skinwalker Ranch is another place of phenomena. So when we have this structure or this energy source, does it do something to help along strangeness? And I think it does, because we hear of certain types of creatures and entities. And Smith was just on a show, actually on Blind Frog Ranch, I think that aired a couple of weeks ago. And I do try to follow when I can. So he's on. Now, this is a guy that worked military, deep state, talked about all the underground transport systems that we have that can take you from one state to another. You don't know where you're going. They put you in a lab. Through a window comes on a petri dish, a sample. This is a guy that has had 3,000 samples put in front of him, some of alien subject matter. And it's for him to write down whatever the military wants him to do, and he does, and he did, and he did his job. They find something very strange on this property where this anomaly is. And it says it's snake-like serpentine DNA, but we don't know what it is, and it seems prehistoric. So I would tell everybody, if you want to have to watch a show with a little bit of interest, it might take you into this Emery Smith. If you don't know who I'm talking about, I call him Mr. Smith, Dr. Smith. I don't try to get him confused with the old spacecraft show. Smith,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
This guy is somebody that's he's very well educated, but he came on the show. He was doing some things and worked it for them to try to identify a couple things that were going on because of his background, and he's able to do it. But so anyway, meteors, they can give off energies. I guess it depends upon what type you have. Because when they were doing certain testings using, what they call deep penetrating, you know what I'm talking about. Basically they're X-raying the grounds. They came up. They know exactly where it's sitting. They tried to drill down to it, and it destroyed every burying bit that they used on it. So what's it made of? Gold, iron?
Oh, you're talking about that real big one out there in space. Most of it's gold. Gold.
No, I'm talking about the one that's underground that they have that anomaly that they have just found. I know that they claim that they have found something in space, and they says it's quadrillions of amounts of gold and diamonds and things like that. Well, you bring all that back in. Who's it for? It's not going to do anything for us.
Well,
you know
what?
Us to get excited about something that's going to go turned over to the families of the world that are controlling the world. But this is why you have to understand. This is their military. It's not ours.
Right. But look at Elon Musk. Think about it. Hi, Virginia. Welcome back. I'm glad you made it home safe. But think about it. Elon Musk could probably send people up there on that meteor and start prospecting that gold and bringing it back for himself, dude.
I guess there's a high probability, in fact, to that if we're actually able to leave this whole complexity of the big question of the Firmament. Can we get through it? Many people said we're still fighting to get through it. And I think one of the last rockets test rockets that were sent up exploded at the top of the stratosphere. So I don't know. I mean, we could be being lied to on a very huge level. Why I say that is something was sent to me that a guy was doing GPSing. So he's coordinating, he's going through, and he just likes to look at things. And he came up with a bunch of NASA equipment up near, I think it was Ireland, on an island where they were all situated and had Land Rovers and everything that you would find on Mars there. They had quads, and there was no fixtures. There was no life outside of them. And it was a rather big place, but an undeveloped place. And they were utilizing it for what may be the biggest lie, one of the biggest lies ever told to us. Maybe we never sent anything to Mars, and we're just fictionalizing it for entertainment purposes for us to keep us focused somewhere else.
No,
disastrous plan. It's not right.
Dude,
if that's what they're doing.
Ever since they said that they made their mission to Mars, I just said they are full of shit because I don't think they're on Mars, and that's my opinion. That's my opinion. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I know. And then you would be in a landmark battle fight with Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, because, we may have had technology problem solved 50 years ago, but were we able to get it off this planet to utilize it? And this is where the maps get interesting, as I brought up, like with the Perry-Reese map and so forth. When we look at other observations of what the Vatican has controlled and gave orders to do, one of them, which makes me say they can restructure and deliver to us anything they want us to see if they want us to see it. That was to enlarge the United States, not that it did, by size, but by look. So when you opened up, the United States looked the largest, and in fact, we're not.
Right.
But on paper, you look at it and say, wow, it's outstanding. It's huge. But it's not. It's just how they compiled the artwork together to make it look. The Mandela effect. It's like one game, the guy has the monocle on the box. The next year you buy it, the monocle's gone. We live in that Mandela effect. And I believe that they are guiding it. And they always have been, which means this goes back theoretically a couple hundred years with no problem. But it goes much deeper than that. And that because the bloodlines do go back to the Gilgamesh times and Nimrod and things like that, where these people of the Orsini, Rothschild, Rockefeller, and others, and there are others who have adapted from this name to other names because of agendas. And that would make claim for us to understand why we see what we see now, but also why everything gets twisted into a fairy tale. Or it looks like we're just so damn crazy. When, they're trying to, do what they can to put us in an element of place that suits them. Right. And that's where we're at. So you have all this kind of stuff, and it doesn't matter. I mean, we have eyewitnesses that come forward like Betty and Barney Hill and countless others. You have Bigfoot encounters that have occurred that were seen. You have Albert Osterman. I think I'm pronouncing the last name right. This is early in the 19th century. I think it was in the 20s, to be honest with you. And I read the story where this man said he was abducted by a family, I believe, of 6 who kept him in a cave. And slowly, they didn't bother him. They sort of tried to feed him and different things like that. And his experience is now in the history books and it's being written about. One of your guests who come on, who was a friend of mine who I did shows with, Russell Easterbrooks, put him into a book, actually. So you have that type of example of where we are. In 1967, you had the Patty film, an 8 millimeter film, I believe, and it was like maybe 9-10 seconds long. One of the only clearest documents that we have. It's been tested, retested, theorized over and over again. It's speculated on, and nobody can disprove it. The same when we had the rocket that went up with a missile head on it, a live missile head, and it goes up into the stratosphere, and it's being filmed out of NASA. And this spacecraft comes in, and it's going all around. Here's the head of the craft. Well, let me get my finger there. Here's the head of the craft. And this thing is shooting lasers into it all the way around, then goes, boom, gone. And it explodes. We have factual videos of many things that exist out there. You have Provo Canyon in 2012, where you have the story from Ernie Dubois, another guy that comes in and highly credible story. Things said that are abnormal to what we hear from other people. Meaning, the way I'm saying that is data, great data, when you listen to the words and you really allow yourself to digest it. Another one was a guy that I did things with, Matt, I believe it's called, his last name is Emich, yeah. He's good. EMCH. So, incredible story. That surrounds things. Now, that's some up-to-date things. There's many that go back. I mean, we have 1921, the Mount Everest expedition, who brought back footprints in a place that no one ever had gone to before. So here they brought back the first ones. You have Tom Slick in 1958, a millionaire who brought back from his expedition with a lot of people. He did a couple of expeditions. He realized, though, he was having problems in his place of where they were doing their work and scientific, studies, that it's better to have less than more. So some mistakes were made, but he was able to come out conclusively with prints, filmings, and pictures of beds and structures, fecal matter, and hair. Same with Russia, same with China, and always coming back to the same conclusion. Unknown subject matter.
Huh.
So, these are just some things, giving some locals some props and saying hey to you, because, I do believe in what they have told me and what they have, I believe their statements. I mean, the stories are incredible in some ways. And there's many more out there like
Right.
that on the platform that we need to observe more, and don't take that off the plate. I'll give you a minute to, do anything. You have to do anything for Carnation yet?
No, I did it at the beginning of the show,
Well,
but
I'll do it for them again. Thank you, Carnation. Just so
but
you know.
my friend Sebastian Moran says, great show. Cindy says, amazing show. Yes, this has been an amazing show. We got about 5 minutes left before I got to
Is
get
that
out
it?
of here. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, Jesus, man. I didn't even get to a
I know.
small. I told you this would never work in an hour.
No.
But I do believe this is the best way
Mhm.
to cross the paths of what we see, what we don't see, what's real, what's reality, what comes from the old stories versus the new stories. And what I do see most commonly is what I said at the beginning, and I'll just give a quick repeat on it. The most seen subject matter when it comes to Bigfoot are them running across the road. I don't know if it's just, I'm sure it has happened, but it is what it is.
Right.
In the tree lines, although we have guys like Bill Rigby out there who does some things and tries to do studies and gets involved with conventions now and things like that. He talks about his encounter where just momentarily it was something in front of him. And I don't think that people are lying. There's just too much evidence pointing in the opposite direction. But
Totally
I think we need to direct at some point in the future where you and I can get to this point, talk about it, or go into a different type of subject matter and take people in. Now, while we're in the last minute, I'll do this really quick, because when we come into a point of unknown, here's one for you. A man named Ron Wyatt, explorer, holy things, Jesus, the cross, place of burial, place of the cross, digs under that place where supposedly the cross once stood, where Jesus was nailed to it, and dug down into the ground and in a very close area to it. And there was claim that he found the Ark of the Covenant there as well. Not only finding the Ark of the Covenant, he found blood, black blood. And it, of course, being dried, it could be black. He had it checked. Only have 24 chromosomes, which means whatever it was only had a mother. It never had a father.
Oh, wow.
I don't make these things up. I researched them. And this guy found chariots in the ocean. It's like he was a radar. He found the Ark, Noah's Ark.
Wow.
What we know as Noah's Ark, but I don't call it Noah's Ark because these names in the books have been changed from, for whatever purposes. I don't want to go into there, but I would go into there whenever you want. So we didn't really accomplish anything you wanted, did we?
Yes, we did. You just don't know how much we did, because I am going to ask you to come back maybe like in February, and we're going to do 2 shows. I'll have you on a Sunday night hour and a Tuesday night hour, because with you just mentioning freaking hairy freaking aliens, dude.
I'll get you some more on that.
Oh my. But listen, we got to go. We got another show coming behind us. Michael, how can people get a hold of you?
Through you.
Through me. So if you need any questions, okay, hey, I'll do it. That's not a problem.
If you want me back, tell Sean. If you want me back, tell Sean.
But
I love it here. I do. I love
and
you,
I
brother.
love having you here too on the show, my friend. But on that note, real quick, got to say, welcome to the first show of 2024. It was an excellent one. I got the best that's going to be coming on now for 2024, and starting off with Michael Anthony. I'm telling you, you can't go wrong. But listen, everybody, have a good night. Thank you for listening, and we're definitely going to have Michael on pretty soon down the future. And, give everybody a hug. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year. And on that note, good night, everybody.